Hey everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about the characters and their choices. Enjoy the story. I never thought it would come to this. But when I look back, it feels like I was just slowly sinking without even realizing it. Life with John was once perfect. At least, that's what it seemed like. We had been married for 5 years, and everyone would say we were the perfect couple. But behind the smiles and the good job hugs at family gatherings, I felt an emptiness creeping in. It wasn't that John was a bad person. He wasn't. He was kind, loving, and worked hard to provide for us. But somewhere along the line, the connection between us started to fade. The nights when we would talk for hours about everything and nothing, those were long gone. Now, we barely spoke beyond, "How was your day?" or "What's for dinner?" And his long hours at work didn't help. I remember at one point, I had to remind myself what he looked like when he wasn't dressed in his work clothes, so lost was he in his own world. I used to try to fill the gaps. I'd sign up for painting classes, go for walks in the park, or catch up with friends, but nothing really helped. The loneliness gnawed at me, and John didn't even notice. He was always too tired, too focused on work. He was the good husband, the responsible man, but he forgot that I was a person too. I wasn't just a wife, I was a woman who needed attention, affection, and love. But I didn't know how to tell him that. Then there was Em, one of my closest friends. I'd known her for years, and for a while, I'd been telling her how I felt. She was always so sympathetic, understanding. She was the only one who truly listened. I had no idea she'd been quietly watching how unhappy I was, how trapped I felt. She kept telling me that I deserved more, that I deserved to feel wanted, to feel alive. One night, I was venting to her over the phone, trying to hold back tears. "I don't know, Em. I just feel like I'm fading away. John doesn't see me anymore. It's like I don't even exist to him. He comes home, eats, falls asleep, and that's it." "You know what I think?" Em's voice was calm but firm. "I think you need to do something for you for once. You're not just someone's wife. You're you, Lisa. You need to find that spark again. It's not too late, you know." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But part of me felt like I was just too far gone, too numb to change anything. But that night, as I was about to go to bed, Em sent me a text. She had organized a small get-together for a few friends and invited me along. "A night to just forget everything," she wrote. "Come out and have fun. You deserve it." So, I went. It wasn't even about having fun at first. It was just about doing something different. I needed a distraction. The night was an odd mixture of awkward small talk and too much wine. But then, he walked in. Alex. He was a few years younger than me, sharp and charming, and there was something about him that made me feel seen. He was smart, confident, and had this easy way of making people feel important. I hadn't realized how much I'd been craving attention like that until he started talking to me. At first, it was just casual conversation. He complimented my dress, asked about my work. I answered, but it was just noise in the back of my mind. Until, suddenly, I felt alive. I felt like I wasn't just a wife or a shadow in someone else's life, but like I mattered. "So what do you do?" Alex asked, leaning in slightly. His smile was warm, his eyes curious. "I'm a graphic designer," I replied, feeling that rush of warmth in my chest. I hadn't realized how much I missed feeling interesting. "I mostly work from home now, it's pretty quiet." "I bet it gets lonely," he said, his tone so sincere. He must have noticed something in my voice because he didn't just leave it at that. I wasn't used to someone noticing. It was almost overwhelming. "Yeah, it does," I admitted, taking a sip of my wine. "I guess it's just hard to find the balance, you know, between being a wife, a career woman, and still being myself." He nodded, his gaze never leaving mine. "I get that," he said softly. "It's hard to feel like you're really seen when you're juggling all that. But I think you deserve more, Lisa." That was when it happened. The first shift, the first moment I felt like someone was really paying attention to me. And I was too lost in it to stop it. We kept talking, and as the night went on, it was as if everything else faded away. The music, the chatter, the world outside, it didn't matter. All I could think about was how good it felt to be seen again. I don't know exactly when things started to shift from friendly banter to something more. Maybe it was the touch of his hand on mine, or the way he made me laugh. But by the time the party was winding down, we were standing close together, exchanging looks that said more than words could. "Do you want to get out of here?" he asked, his voice low and smooth. I knew I should say no. I should think about John, about what I was doing. But in that moment, I didn't care. I wasn't thinking about anyone but myself. I just wanted to feel something. Anything. That wasn't the empty feeling that had consumed me for so long. Yeah. I said, almost without thinking. And that was it. I followed him out of the party, and I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I could feel alive again. The rest of the night is a blur. I don't remember the details clearly. There was wine and laughter, and I let myself get swept away in it all. I couldn't tell you how we ended up in his apartment, but there we were. And when it happened, I told myself it was just a mistake, just one moment where I was searching for something I didn't even know I needed. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a cry for help, for something I hadn't even realized I was missing until it was too late. As I lay there afterward, my mind swirled with guilt. But there was a part of me that didn't want to feel sorry. I didn't want to feel like I had done something wrong. In that moment, I wanted to justify it, to believe that this was what I deserved. I woke up the next morning, disoriented, with the remnants of alcohol still clouding my thoughts. The sunlight streaming through the blinds made everything feel too real, too stark. The softness of the sheets beneath me was the only thing that didn't feel out of place. But my heart was heavy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted forever. I rolled over to find Alex still sleeping beside me. His face was relaxed, peaceful, like he didn't have a care in the world. I, on the other hand, felt a storm brewing inside. The guilt was there, pushing at the edges of my thoughts, but it was buried under a rush of emotions I didn't want to face. Was this really who I had become? I had to get out of there. I quietly slid out of bed, grabbed my clothes from the floor, and tiptoed into the bathroom to get dressed. The sharp reality of the situation started to settle in. I was married, for crying out loud. Married to John. The man who had stood by me, who had loved me, who had built a life with me. And here I was, lying in bed with another man. Another man who had, for one fleeting moment, made me feel alive in ways I hadn't felt in so long. The logical side of my brain wanted to scream at me. What are you doing? This is wrong. But the part of me that had been neglected, ignored, the part that had been yearning for attention, for something to make me feel valuable again. She was the one that had made this decision. As I gathered my things and tiptoed out of Alex's apartment, I tried to tell myself that it was just one night. That it didn't mean anything. It wasn't like I was in love with him, right? I had just wanted a taste of what it felt like to be wanted. To feel alive again. I got into my car and stared at myself in the rearview mirror. My makeup was smudged from the night before. My hair was messy, but more than that, I saw someone who was trapped. Trapped in a life I didn't know how to escape. John hadn't noticed me in months. Not really. He hadn't noticed that the laughter had disappeared from our house, that the spark in my eyes had faded, that I had started to wither under the weight of feeling invisible. It wasn't that I didn't love him anymore, but it was like we had both just settled into a routine where love didn't require effort. It wasn't something we worked on. And then there was Alex. For that brief moment, he made me feel like I wasn't invisible. He made me feel like I mattered, like I was someone worth noticing. It wasn't about love. It was about being seen. By the time I got home, I was exhausted, mentally and emotionally. I walked into the house trying to act normal, but the guilt was crawling under my skin. John was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes. He looked up, a tired but warm smile crossing his face. "Morning, babe," he said, his voice so casual, so normal. He didn't have a clue. I could feel my heart pound in my chest as I walked toward him. "Morning," I said, trying to sound natural, but I could hear the tremor in my voice. I quickly turned my head, hoping he wouldn't notice. He set the plate of pancakes down on the counter, his eyes glinting with affection. "How was your night? You looked like you were having a good time." I smiled weakly, trying to force it. "It was fine," I said. "Just a little tiring, you know." He didn't seem to think much of it. "Well, we should do something later, you and me. It's been a while since we've had a weekend to ourselves." I nodded, but all I could think about was the night before. I wanted to tell him, to confess everything, but the words wouldn't come. How could I tell him? How could I tell him that I had given in to a fleeting moment of attention? That I had betrayed him? The man who trusted me with everything. But as the day went on, the guilt began to fester. It was like a constant hum in the back of my mind, reminding me that I couldn't undo what had been done. It ate away at me, And worse, I was beginning to justify it. I told myself that maybe, just maybe, John didn't deserve me anymore. Was that too harsh? I couldn't tell anymore. I had been trying to make it work. I had tried to make him see me again. But nothing changed. He was still the same, distant, absorbed in his work. I tried to talk to him about it, but the conversations always felt like I was begging for attention, for validation. I didn't think I would ever have an answer to my inner turmoil. I tried to shut it down, to brush it off, but it kept knocking at my door. The problem wasn't Alex. The problem was that I had never truly felt heard by John. That night, I couldn't stop replaying the events in my head. The way Alex had looked at me, the way his voice had made me feel like I mattered. I wasn't just his wife anymore, I was someone worthy of being desired. But as I lay in bed next to John, trying to keep the tears in, I realized that I had made a decision that would change everything. I couldn't take it back. And I didn't want to. I couldn't deny it any longer. I was craving something more. Something that John couldn't give me anymore. I didn't know it then, but that night would set the wheels in motion for everything to come crashing down. The guilt was there, yes. But the justification was louder. Maybe, in the end, I was just trying to survive, trying to find myself in a world where I had lost my identity. And Alex, for that one night, gave me that. He gave me back a part of myself I thought I'd lost forever. But now, I would have to live with the consequences. The days after that night with Alex felt like I was walking through a fog, trying to keep my balance, but everything around me seemed to be slipping. I kept telling myself that it wasn't that big of a deal. I kept convincing myself that what happened wasn't the end of the world. But it felt like I was slowly drowning in my own guilt, and I couldn't find a way out. John had no idea. He was still the same sweet, caring, trying his best to be present. Every time he looked at me with those eyes full of love and trust, I felt like a fraud. How could I look him in the face, knowing what I had done? How could I pretend like everything was fine when I knew deep down that I had broken something between us? That Saturday, I thought about telling him. I even rehearsed it in my head. How I would say it, how I would explain myself. But the words never seemed to come. Instead, I kept pushing it away, hoping it would disappear. But it didn't. The tipping point came a week later. We were at a family gathering. A typical Sunday afternoon with his parents, cousins, and family friends. Everything felt normal, but it was suffocating. I kept thinking about Alex, about the way I had felt when he looked at me, how I had felt seen in a way I hadn't been in years. It made the walls close in around me, and I had to get out of there. I excused myself, saying I needed some fresh air, and stepped outside onto the porch. It was a warm day, and I leaned against the railing, trying to steady my breathing. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a text from Alex. "Hey, hope you're doing okay. Was thinking about you. I can't stop thinking about that night." I read the message 3 times before putting my phone down. A small part of me wanted to reply, wanted to pick up where we had left off. But I didn't, I couldn't. What kind of person was I becoming? As I stood there, struggling with my emotions, I heard footsteps behind me. It was John. He stepped outside, looking concerned. "Liza, are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. "You've been really quiet today." I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to scream it all out, let the truth spill out of my mouth like a dam breaking. But I couldn't. Not like this. Not here, with his family just inside, not when the consequences were still too real, too sharp. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Just needed a moment. It's been a long week, you know." He looked at me with those trusting eyes again. "I get it. You've been working hard lately. You deserve a break." He put a hand on my shoulder and squeezed it gently. I nodded, trying to steady my racing heart. I couldn't let him see the storm inside me. I couldn't let him know what I had done. Not yet. The night passed uneventfully, but inside my mind was racing. The guilt was crushing me, and my lies were suffocating me. John was still the same. He didn't suspect anything. But I knew that things couldn't go on like this forever. The next day, I went back to work, trying to focus on my tasks, but it was impossible to concentrate. My thoughts kept drifting back to the night with Alex, to the way he had made me feel. Alive, desirable, wanted. And that text, his words haunted me. That afternoon, as I was finishing up a project at my desk, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Alex. It was a message from M. "Liza, we need to talk. It's important. I'm sorry, but I think you should know." My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't know what she was going to say, but the tone of her message made it clear that something was about to happen that I wasn't prepared for. I didn't reply right away. I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at the message, the world around me blurring. I spent the next few hours avoiding M's texts, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What did she know? What was she going to tell me? I tried to block it out, tried to push the anxiety down, but it wasn't working. Around 7 p.m., I heard a knock at the door. It was John, home early for once. He was holding a glass of wine in his hand, looking tired but still giving me that same soft smile that I had grown used to over the years. "Hey, I thought we could have a quiet night," he said. "Maybe watch a movie or something. You and me, just like before." For a moment I was paralyzed. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him I couldn't do this anymore. But instead, I just nodded. "Sure. That sounds nice." We sat on the couch, but I couldn't focus on the movie. I couldn't focus on anything except the overwhelming dread that was starting to close in on me. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from John. It wasn't just any text. It was a photo. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. It was a picture of a handwritten note, a note that I immediately recognized. "You're not the only one she's with. I thought you should know. She's been seeing Alex." I froze. My heart stopped beating. My blood ran cold. My breath caught in my throat. John must have seen the color drain from my face because he turned to me, his expression confused. "What is it?" I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. It was like the room was closing in on me, and the truth that I had tried so hard to hide was now staring me in the face. He looked down at the phone, then back at me, his face slowly starting to change. The warmth in his eyes faded, replaced by confusion, hurt, and anger. "Liza," he whispered, almost too quietly. "What is this?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Everything I had been running from, everything I had been trying to hide, was coming to light, and there was no way to take it back now. "John, I began, but my voice cracked. I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I fought them back. I didn't deserve his sympathy. I didn't deserve anything. "You lied to me," he said quietly, almost as if the words hurt him more than they should have. "You really thought I wouldn't find out." I didn't know how to respond. All I could do was sit there, as the reality of what I had done, and what was about to happen, hit me full force. The silence between us was unbearable. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, thundering in a way that drowned out everything else. John didn't look angry. Not at first. But there was something colder in his eyes, something I had never seen before. His trust in me had shattered in an instant, and it was clear that nothing could fix it. He stared at me, his hand still holding the phone, as if he couldn't quite believe what he had just discovered. And honestly, neither could I. It felt like the world had tilted sideways, and I was watching everything unfold in slow motion. I didn't mean for this to happen," I said, finally finding my voice, but even I could hear how weak and hollow it sounded. John shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "You didn't mean for it to happen? Really, Liza? You didn't mean to sleep with another man? How does that even make sense?" I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but no words came. How could I explain it? How could I justify something that was so clearly wrong? I couldn't. "You've been lying to me, to my face?" he continued, his voice growing more and more distant. "For how long, Liza? How long have you been sneaking around, pretending everything was fine? I've been working my ass off to provide for us, to build a life, and you." His voice trailed off, and I could see the hurt in his eyes, deep, raw hurt that I knew I had caused. "I'm sorry," I whispered, the words sounding so insignificant, so meaningless in the face of everything I had done. But what else was there to say? John dropped his gaze to the floor, the anger in his eyes giving way to disbelief. "You know what, Liza? I trusted you. I loved you. I thought we had something real. But this is betrayal. This is something I can't come back from." His words hit me like a physical blow, and I had to brace myself against the back of the couch to stay upright. He had always been the calm one, the steady one. And now, in the wake of my actions, I could see that steadiness had cracked. He was unraveling, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. "I never meant to hurt you," I said again, my voice breaking. But I knew it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. "Then why did you do it, Liza?" His voice was sharp now, filled with pain. "What was I not giving you? What was so bad about us that you had to go and do this?" He gestured at the phone, the photo of the note still on the screen. "I don't know," I said, feeling small and lost. I just, I felt so alone. You were always working, always so distant. I tried to talk to you, but you never heard me, John. It felt like I was invisible to you, like I didn't even matter anymore. He looked at me, his expression unreadable, and for a moment, I thought he might say something to comfort me, something that would make everything feel okay again. But he didn't. Instead, he just shook his head. No, Lisa. You're wrong. I wasn't distant. I was trying to make sure we had a future. You think I don't care about you? That I don't notice when something's wrong? I wasn't perfect, but I was here. I was trying. And you, his voice cracked. You went behind my back, lied to me and betrayed me with him. You don't get to blame this on me. I could feel the tears starting to fall, but I couldn't stop them. They came in waves, each one heavier than the last. The weight of what I had done was crushing me, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. John stood up abruptly, running a hand through his hair, clearly struggling to keep himself together. I can't do this. I can't look at you right now. I need to think. I need space. I stood up too, my legs shaky, as I reached out for him. John, please don't. No, Lisa. Just leave me alone for a while, okay? I don't know what to say to you right now. I don't know what we can do anymore. He walked out of the room before I could say anything else. I stood there, frozen, my mind spinning. I had done it. I had destroyed everything. The life we built together, the trust, the love, all of it was gone. And all because of a moment of weakness, a fleeting desire for something I thought I needed. The hours stretched on, each minute feeling like a year. I couldn't bring myself to leave the couch. I couldn't bring myself to do anything. The silence in the house was deafening. The only thing I could hear was the pounding of my heart in my chest, a constant reminder of what I had lost. Eventually, I saw John come back into the living room. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. He looked at me once, and I could see the walls he had built around himself. I don't know what to say to you anymore, he said quietly. I don't know if I can even look at you the same way. I don't think I can ever trust you again, Lisa. And that's the hardest part. I wanted to beg him to stay, to tell him that I was sorry, that I would do anything to make it right. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't change anything. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. I don't know what to do either, I whispered, my voice barely audible. John nodded, the weight of the situation settling over him like a fog. I think we need to figure out what happens next. But right now, I need some space. I need to process this. With that, he turned and walked toward the bedroom, leaving me standing in the living room, feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me. As the door clicked shut behind him, I felt the full weight of the reality I had created. The guilt, the shame, the emptiness, it was all consuming. I had made my bed, and now I had to lie in it. I had been looking for something that I thought was missing. But in the end, I had only found destruction. And now, everything I had built with John was crumbling, piece by piece. I sat there for a long time, not sure what would happen next. The future seemed like an endless, dark road with no way back.